It's an old house. Everything gets dusty. Anyway, okay, so you're out in the field, right? You've got an excavator or a backhoe. You're lifting an engine or a hydraulic pump. Most often a hydraulic pump out of a fair-sized machine. You know, it could be a D6, 7, or 8 size bulldozer. Excavators, of course, anything probably in the neighborhood of 8 tons and up. They're a big enough pump. You're not going to want to wrestle that out of there. It's all cast iron, right? Or cast steel. So you got it hooked up. But next time you do something like this, and you're a field mechanic, you'll understand this, or you're a field mechanic, you need to think of this. I went through this before with two guys they were fine for the job. That wasn't the problem. I got cords tangled, so hang on. And I've got 8 cords here in different directions. And we were pulling an engine, a relatively heavy one, a 10-liter out of a PC490. Yeah, 50-ton excavator. So it wasn't some little puppy. It wasn't a monster. It was a big boy. Yeah, 350 horse, 300, something like that. Yeah. She's a sweet excavator. Oh, 490s. That was a Dash 10 model, I believe. And they wanted to know what the interim, before they went to the horseshoe, and they wanted to know what the interim style after treatment was doing to the engine. So I think we can't remember, we had 1,000 hours or something like that, and then Komatsu called and said that's the first one in the United States with it. Pull that engine, send it back. They want to take it down, I think, to Georgia and do some study on it. So we were pulling the thing out, and we made a boo-boo. The engine caught in frame and slipped out and banged a hydraulic cooler, which the thing is so strong it barely made a dent in it. But that's quite the size engine to make a dent in something, right? That's what we thought. Wow. So we got it out. The next time going back in, problem totally avoided. Somebody looked at me, and we did another job too. And the problem, pulling it out, pump or engine, I can't remember which, was totally different. What was the difference? The first time when the engine skipped, they're in between, there's 2 rails and the engine's sideways. Oil pan's deep in here. You got to lift it straight up. You can go to some extent to one direction or the other, probably 3-4 inches. But it's tucked in there. So what had happened was, we're lifting. Okay, it's kind of hard to do, but pretend this is the bucket, your finger. And this is the arm. And there you go. There's the boom. What happened? The first guy was an operator. When I asked it for a lift, the boom rotates and it brings the arm up. So he did. He rotated, used the boom, the heavy lift, right? What did it do? It made a major arc. Okay, if you can imagine a major arc, that's what happened. The next guy was at least a former mechanic and knew what was going on. I asked the exact same maneuver, and the guy was sitting there with me, and I said, watch this. He's going to use the arm instead of the boom. I said, why? And I explained it to the kid. He was an intern type. He said, up went the boom and the bucket. You see the difference in the linear? Yeah, you're not moving the whole thing and having it come up and in, and it caught the oil pan, and poof. And I sat there, and he said, holy crap, what the... I said, I forgot you're an operator. So what do you mean? You would lift with a boom naturally. Yeah, why? It's just a mistake I forgot about. So I said, well, check it. We checked it, aired it out, nothing was wrong. We put in more. The cooler doesn't get more than a couple of 100 pounds of pressure in it, and we put in shop air and didn't even phase the thing. So we didn't worry about it. No, you didn't do this, you didn't do that. No, we didn't need to. Why? There's still oil in the coolers, especially tucked in and stuck to the walls. And if there'd been a leak, oil would have come out. There was nothing anywhere, dry in a popcorn fart. He says, well, wait till we put it together and run it. We put it together, ran it, and hammered it all over the place. And fortunately, it was in our rental fleet. Didn't make a difference. But what I'm trying to say to you techs out there is when you have somebody working with you, sometimes what you need to do is what Kevin and I used to do together, is we worked together for thousands of hours, literally, is that quite often we point, bucket up. we'd point, bucket down. Or we'd come over here, point, arm, up, arm, down. Point straight ahead to him, machine. In our case, this is left for the operator, or machine right, because we're facing him in the cab. He's watching. And the other one was, if we did want a little bit of an arc, then we point to the boom, say up, and he would go up. We worked out the signals, and sometimes it didn't work. We had to use a whole hand to go up, and sometimes a whole hand to go down. But the other thing we did was you want minute movements. You'd point and hold, and then do this. If you're making large movements and you're coming closer, we always used our hands and give them an idea roughly how close they were to contact. It wasn't actual how many inches or feet, but how close to contact that it was. This always meant you try to be sure, hold it up or put it in a position where they could see. Keep moving slowly, then hold a finger up that they'd move very slow and hold. Stop. We had signals that were pretty simple like that all the time, consistently. We found out in the gas field they had a little bit of a modification that the feds want, but those were important signals we had for safety all along the way. And last but not least on all of these things, lifting with the boom, arm, bucket. Recognize where the hinge points are. That's one thing. Recognize that and work with the person on the signals and how to go up and down. Okay? Work with the hold or slow. Okay? Or if it's large movements, that used to be the one we do. Well, the one kid thought that meant counterclockwise or clockwise, and Kevin says it might, but for the most part that just means go until we say hold. And occasionally someone would do this instead of hold. That, as long as we knew that's what they were going to do, nobody cared. We'd work these things out beforehand. And last but not least, something that came through with the interns, but unfortunately more so when Jerry Skiff and Butthead Nethercott showed up. Those people would get so hyped. They'd stick their nose into what was going on. Skiff in particular. And all of a sudden there's 2 or 3 people giving orders. It's impossible. It's impossible. Do not allow that to happen under any circumstances, anywhere, on any job, no matter how big or small, ever. There is only one person to signal the operator. You're working with a machine that weighs anywhere between 10 and 50 tons doing the lifting for you. Too many things, even at 5, 8, or 10 tons, as I said. A 10-ton machine, 12-ton machine, too much can go wrong. And the operator's inside the cab with limited visibility. Someone needs to be in the front, near direct vision as possible, or standing next to them, giving verbal commands. One person. One, and only one. I say, well, how? Because you can have 3 or 4 or 5 people around the machine. That's great. They have to have you need a contact, and only one give the signals. Now, occasionally something goes wrong, and the person says, whoa, off to the corner, and the operator sees that. That's one thing. Or in the camera in the back, they'll be hollering, whoa. But he shouldn't have to watch, or in some cases she shouldn't have to watch. People should be placed and one person give the orders, even if it's by radio. Only one give the orders to the operator or the instructions. And in some cases, if you're not 100% certain and you know you have a good operator, just remember to keep in mind which movement they're going to make. And that's the command or request that you're going to make, is pointing to the segment or part of the machine that you want to operate. As simple as it sounds, these things are critical when you're lifting parts that weigh 500, 1,000, 2,000, or in this engine's case, 3 to 4, about 3,500 to 4,000 pounds. You don't screw around with those things. Even the small engines, you need to know what's going on. Even if some idiot's jacking it and you're trying to guide the motor out, make sure you have your signals or your verbal commands put in place. whoa is too close to go, or up, and you need your up and down, left and right, counterclockwise, clockwise. You need all of that set in place, whether you're using that command or not. Even when you're using a stupid little pump jack and the guy's guiding the thing out. These are critical skills that you're going to need to follow, especially out in the gas fields or in the farmer's backyard, lifting something out from a hoist in the tree that shouldn't be done, but it happens. And knowing what your commands are and what you're doing with it can be, let's put it this way, people put a huge warning on it, and the difference is when you get done and people have followed each other's instructions and commands as they've needed and the signals, you have no idea until you go through it that when you get to the end and everything went well, you almost give a fist pump sometimes because things went so well when they were planned prior. The same goes for your troubleshooting before you get to the repair. Written and planned out. It can make a huge difference on how the job ends up. And as far as how much you enjoy that job, let alone the final outcome that says, dude knows what he's doing. That's a technician.